Ladies and gentlemen, it was the break of dawn in Washington DC on Wednesday morning after the big election night when we saw results come in thick and fast. I welcome all of you to this special edition of Prime Time with me, Anukriti Sharma, and yes, Donald Trump has been declared the winner. He is now the 47th President of the United States of America, and we at CVR English have the latest projections for you. Kamala Harris is stuck at 226, Donald Trump at 312. That's the number of electoral college votes that he has bagged. 312, that's passed the majority mark of 270, and this time anyway, the Trump campaign was hoping to cross the 300 mark in fact, and they have now done it. They have achieved it. It's been declared as a quote-unquote historic comeback in an American electoral and political history as declared by his running mate J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump is certainly riding the wave definitely. The world, the entire world, viewers, had been watching this election as closely as possible. After all, it was the world's biggest election of the world's biggest democracy. Minute by minute, this election was being watched, I must say. And we have been telling you about the global media presence here. And capitals across the world had also been tracking this election results, and now they are responding. One of the first leaders of the world to respond was our very own Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And he has worked with multiple US presidents in the more than 10 years that he has been India's Prime Minister. It started with Barack Obama, followed by Donald Trump's regime, his first stint in power, which was then followed by Joe Biden, who's still the current sitting president of the US, and Donald Trump now ready to take up the reins of power once again in the White House come this January. So India is definitely hoping to continue the good run, the good relationship, the good rapport, and to keep working with the next occupant of the White House. But for the rest of the world, it's not looking so good. For example, countries like Iran are now bracing for impact. The Iranian currency rial has fallen to an all-time low, and Tehran is saying that it does not matter to them who comes to power. In Washington DC, their relationship with America is not very healthy as things stand at the moment. And that is because the Trump presidency will only mean more work. China, on the other side, interestingly, has said that they hope for, and I'm quoting, peaceful coexistence with Trump. Remember that trade war? The trade war is once again now very much looming over the American-Chinese skies, and Donald Trump has sweeping powers now with control over the Senate as well. He can cut taxes or he can impose tariffs as well. He can impose tariffs up to 60% for all Chinese goods imported into the USA. And that, viewers, will have some repercussions, as we have seen in the global markets. The Asian currencies have taken a tumble, the European stocks are rising, Tesla's shares increasingly are now rising. In fact, they have just shot up. And that was only to be expected given the big bet that Elon Musk had made. He threw all his weight behind Donald Trump as the businessman. He donated big money to the Trump campaign. Unlike Harris's star-studded campaign, Donald Trump's campaign did not have a star campaigner, but it had a big-time, a real-time donor, a major donor. And that donor was Elon Musk. He poured big money into the Trump campaign, and he went out of his way to support Trump through his social media platform X. And now it is time for him also to rake in the benefits of that business investment. We are also seeing some reactions from across the board indeed. Erdogan, for instance, who happens to be the Turkish president, is congratulating Trump and calling him his quote-unquote friend, which is interesting to note because they have had a political relationship that has been sour in the past. It has seen its ups and downs in the past, including a famous letter that Trump once wrote to Erdogan, threatening him, and that letter was then made public a few years ago. This was when the first time Trump was president. Zelensky has also written in, reminding Trump of the recent meeting that he had, and the Ukrainian president is going to have to worry about what happens next in his war, and whether Trump is going to cut the funding. Because remember that Donald Trump the candidate, when he was the candidate, had said during his speeches and his rallies that he is going to end that war in one day. And now we are waiting to see how he does that. Netanyahu obviously will be a happy man now, as he has always had a good rapport with Donald Trump so far. He has tweeted his congratulations for Donald and Melania Trump. Remember, he fired his defense minister day before yesterday, so a lot of disturbance is going on in the West Asian war as well. Hamas has also reacted, saying that their policy will now depend on Trump's approach to the Palestinians. The Saudi king and the Crown Prince have also congratulated Donald Trump on his election victory. Now, we have seen a lot of reactions from Europe as well, all the way from Emmanuel Macron to Giorgia Meloni, Viktor Orban, and of course, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister. All of them are writing and tweeting in their congratulations and hoping that they will be able to work peacefully with Trump during his second stint in power. Trump is expected to literally double down on all his policies. I must say, a bit of uncertainty there. But we have seen his performance in office once. So I guess the world is better prepared, better braced than it was in 2016. So ladies and gentlemen, this is what that Wednesday morning looked like in Washington DC, with Donald Trump now all set to take the reins of power once again come this January.
Kennedy Jr. And many people, I said, this is our last rally, but now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are... I am a big fan of Hindu, and I am a big fan of India. Big fan.
America is Trump country again, and he has pulled off the improbable, a political heist if you will. Most polls had predicted a tight race, a neck-to-neck one. A lot of them gave an edge even to Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump had the last laugh. He will now be the 47th President of the United States of America, and now let's look at the numbers first. The US has got a total of 538 electoral college votes. You need 270 to become the president. You need to cross that line. And how many did Trump actually win? Well, more than 300 viewers. More than 300. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris was stuck at 226. And it's not just about the number of votes. It's also about how Trump got them. Most polls predicted that the race would come boiling down to the 7 swing states, the states that switch hands election to election. They swing from one side to the other, and guess what? Trump won all 7 of them, all 7 swing states. So he retained his traditional Republican states, of course, and he captured the undecided ones as well. He also won the popular vote this time, which is basically the national vote share. Trump got more than 51% and Kamala Harris got around 47%. Now this is also rather unprecedented. For Donald Trump, even when he won in 2016, he did not win the popular vote. Hillary Clinton did. It is something that the Democrats used to mock Trump about. Well, not anymore, because this time Trump has won the popular vote and the Electoral College as well. And in doing so, he has now indeed scripted history. Only one US president has ever lost an election and then returned to win another term. That was Grover Cleveland. He was the 22nd as well as the 24th president of the United States, but that was way back in the late 1800s. In the recent times, the trend has been different in the US. If you lose an election, you disappear. You don't stay around to contest again. But Trump said, not so fast. He bided his time for more than 3 years, built up a strong voting coalition, ran a long and a reigning campaign, and finally won. Well, hate him or like him, credit for that. Trump was watching the results all the way from his residence in Florida, and as the electoral picture became more and more clear, he headed to a nearby convention center. The entire Trump team was there with him. His wife, his sons, his daughters-in-law, Elon Musk, a few golfers and important podcasters. Everyone who had pushed Trump over the line. They were all present. In classic Trump style, he did not wait for mainstream media to call the race. Instead, he declared it himself. But unlike the last time, this was fair. Trump spoke about sealing the borders and fixing the economy, and in a rare move, he also called for unity in America. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, also spoke, the Vice President of America. He hailed Trump's political comeback as monumental. Trump also did not forget to praise Elon Musk. He's spent a lot of time talking about his recent rocket mission, his ambitious rocket mission. It's quite a visual description. And he also said that Musk was the real star of his entire election campaign. All in all, it was a typical Trump speech. A lot of hyperbole, a lot of warnings, and a lot of adjectives. On the other side, the scenes were completely different, viewers. Harris was seen at a college in Washington, D.C. Hundreds of her supporters had gathered there. At first, the mood was rather upbeat and a DJ was playing some music. But as the night dragged on November 5th, the real picture became clear. Kamala Harris decided to cancel her voting day speech, and soon the crowd also disappeared. In fact, the Democrats were totally silent, and we haven't really heard from them, from any of their top leadership. And you can see that why. The Democrats did not just lose the White House. Viewers, they are probably on track to lose the Congress now as well. As you know that the Congress has got two chambers. One is the Senate, and 34 seats were up for grabs. The Republicans have already flipped two, meaning that their candidates unseated the Democratic senators. As a result, now they have a majority in the Senate. Their first majority since 2021. And the other chamber is the House of Representatives. And this one is not clear yet. There are 435 seats in this house, and the majority mark is 280. The Democrats currently are at 182, while the Republicans are at 204. The remaining seats are yet to be declared. But you see the interesting trend here. The Republicans could walk away with the White House, the Senate, as well as the House of Representatives. So basically a clean sweep once again for Trump. Which brings us to an important question. What will Trump 2.0 era look like? Well, first you have the formalities. The Electoral College will have to vote for Trump. Their vote will then have to be certified, and that too by Kamala Harris Senate. And finally, Trump will take the oath of office. It's going to be a months-long process. The inauguration shall only happen on January 20th next year, 2025. And after that, he is in charge. Now with Trump, you must consider two things. One is his temperament. We've seen that already, and you can't ignore it. The second are his policies. The temperament was bad last time. He constantly clashed with the American media. He also refused to work with the members of the Congress, and his executive decisions were frequently challenged in the courts of law. Will we see a repeat of that? Or will he now display the maturity of a one-time president. His campaign speeches don't inspire much confidence, but let's see how it unfolds. Secondly, his policies. Trump's big promise was drill, baby, drill, meaning that he wants to expand the oil drilling in the US. That is his solution to inflation in the US, to bring down the fuel prices. His other major promise is tariffs, a 10% tariff on all the goods imported into the US and a 60% tariff, interestingly, if it's from China. Now, experts say that this could trigger some inflation into the country. But again, let's see how it goes. And his third major promise is mass deportation of illegal immigrants. Trump plans to use a 1798 law to achieve this. But chances are there will be some legal challenges to implementing this, not to mention the logistical chaos. And beyond these, Donald Trump has promised to hold back the democratic decisions and laws. For example, the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare, gun restrictions which were introduced by Joe Biden during his regime, and climate funding, along with electrical vehicle subsidies. All of this could disappear. Chances are we will also see a new team this time. You see, last time Trump relied heavily on his daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner. Now this time, they were largely missing from the campaign trail. Now we have to wait to see if they decide to return. But even if they don't, expect some new faces this time, like Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A lot also depends on the House of the Representatives. If Trump has a Republican Congress, he could reshape the entire US government, whether it's appointing judges or tweaking the bureaucracy or revamping public health policy. He now plans to appoint Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to the health department, and he is known as a vaccine skeptic. So much like 2016, Trump is coming back with a host of untested policies, radical but controversial ones. This time though, Trump holds two advantages. One, he knows his way around Washington. And two, he could have a Republican Congress. We are possibly looking at a historic presidential term, whether it be good or bad, only time will tell. Let's see how Trump 2.0 stint goes.
But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him. Now I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him.
So the results are in, and it's time for a post-mortem. The polls promised us a tight contest, but this is anything but. So what did result day tell us about the public sentiment? Let's dive into the voting data. The biggest issue this time was the economy. No two ways about it. For 39% of the voters, it was their number one concern. Whether it's sluggish jobs or recession fears or the cost of living crisis, that was the top issue. At number 2 was immigration and safety, the mess that has been created at the southern border. About 20% of the voters called it their most important issue. So that's 59% for economy and border, two issues that are considered to be Trump's strength. And what about abortion? It was number 3 at 11%. So the big picture is clear. 59% of the voters gave their priority to Trump's biggest campaign points, and only 11% gave priority to Harris's biggest promise. Which brings us to the voting blocks. We heard a lot of theories heading into the election day that women would flock towards Harris and the Latinos would abandon Trump. Did any of that actually happen? The simple answer is no. Around 54% women voted for Kamala and 44% voted for Trump. So yes, Harris got more women votes. But don't be surprised. Trump's share is actually 2% up from last time, 2020. So he has added more women voters to his coalition. Now Harris's pitch was simple, that only she can protect abortion rights in America. But clearly that did not resonate with women. Maybe, just maybe, women are not single issue voters. They care about things beyond abortion too. Secondly, the black and the Latino voters. Again, a so-called weakness for Trump. Trump won 45% of the Hispanic voters this time and Harris won 53%. So yes, she leads there. But Trump's share has actually increased, and listen to this, it has increased by 13% compared to 2020 again. So once again, he has added to his voting coalition. Among the black voters, he stands at 12%, which is unchanged from the last season. And among the black men, he's up 1% from the last time. He's up. So to recap, more women and Latinos voted for Trump this time. But guess who did not? Well, believe it or not, white voters. Trump is down 3% among the white voters as compared to last time. Now remember, these are all exit polls and the election results do not calculate race or gender. But it does tell us a very insightful story. The narrative was that Trump alienated voters of color. A lot of focus was on his rallies in New York. One of his supporters called Puerto Rico, quote unquote, floating garbage. But none of that has hurt his support base. Clearly this was a vote. Cutting through race and gender, a vote on the state of the economy and the state of the border. Basically a vote against the current status quo in America. And credit to Trump once again because his team read this public sentiment well. The Democrats talked about joy, about democratic values, about democracy being in danger, about Trump's denial of the 2020 results, but they were completely off. Those were not the key issues this time. The key issues were two, the economy and the border. Trump kept hammering down on these issues even on election eve viewers, and we can now see the result. Plus some of the democratic talking points simply did not strike a chord with the people of America. For example, the transgender rights. Perhaps the push was well-intentioned, but this wasn't the election to do it. Exit polls found 50% of the voters saying that trans rights had gone too far. Remember those Trump rants about men competing in women's sports in Olympics? Well, they seem to have resonated. Same with the fake news about the migrants eating dogs and cats. Harris had mocked Trump for saying all of that, but the electorate was deeply concerned about the border nevertheless. So the biggest takeaway from this election is this: the Democrats completely misread it. Whether it was the anger against the economy or the anger against Joe Biden or the perception about Kamala Harris herself, she was not seen as distinct from Biden. She was very much seen as part of the current administration and as part of the problem. In 2016, the Democrats underestimated Donald Trump and they paid the price for it. This time they did not repeat that mistake, but they did underestimate the voter. And in any election anywhere in the world, that is a losing strategy. Meanwhile, US Vice President Kamala Harris has delivered a televised concession speech to the nation yesterday after a whirlwind campaign that failed to stop Republican Donald Trump's return to the White House. Harris told the crowd and the Howard University in Washington, D.C. that she called President-elect Trump, congratulated him on his triumphant victory, and promised to engage in a peaceful transfer of power. Take a look at this.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise.
Well, with Donald Trump becoming the 47th President of the United States of America, and with all of his upcoming untested policies, radical, some of them even controversial, it's only a wait and watch situation to really understand and see what the new era of Trump 2.0 in the US is going to look like. Well, that's a wrap for this prime time with me, Anukriti Sharma. Viewers, stay tuned to CVR English for more news and updates.